Here's a number that should make you uncomfortable. 73% of young adults aged 18 to 24 believe social media negatively affects their mental health. They believe that. And then they spend an average of 4+ hours a day on it anyway. That tension, knowing something is hurting you and doing it regardless, is the defining psychological paradox of Gen Z. And Rockstar just built an entire game around it. Here's what most people think when they hear GTA 6 described as a game built for Gen Z. They picture flashy graphics, short missions, quick dopamine hits, content designed for people who can't focus for more than 8 seconds. That's not what this is. What Rockstar actually built, and this is the part that's genuinely fascinating, is a world that reflects the specific psychological reality of being young in 2026, not the aesthetics. The psychology. The in-game social media system where crimes go viral. The wealth gap baked into every corner of Vice City. The protagonists who are structurally locked out of legitimate success and have to decide what that means for them. Every one of those design choices maps directly onto documented Gen Z research, and the alignment is too precise to be accidental. And when we get to the authenticity section of this video, specifically how GTA 6's confirmed NPC and world systems mirror the single most important value, Gen Z research consistently identifies that's the authenticity connection that makes this whole argument click into place. Because it's not just that GTA 6 reflects Gen Z, it's that GTA 6 might understand this generation better than most games, platforms, or brands that are explicitly trying to reach them. Let's break it down. Start with the most obvious connection because it's also the deepest one. Gen Z is the first generation to grow up entirely inside social media. They don't use it as a communication tool. They use it as infrastructure for identity, for information, for purchasing decisions, for how they understand what's happening in the world. Research consistently shows Gen Z treats social platforms the way previous generations treated television or the telephone, not as optional, but as the default way reality is processed and shared. 46% of Gen Z prefers social media over search engines for finding information. Nearly 95% of Gen Z in the US are active on at least 3 platforms simultaneously. Now, look at what Rockstar confirmed for GTA 6. NPCs pull out phones and film crimes as they happen. Those recordings get posted to an in-game social media platform in real time. Events trend. Law enforcement responds to public awareness. Your actions don't just have immediate consequences, they have viral consequences that persist. This isn't a gameplay mechanic designed to look cool in trailers. This is a game mechanic that mirrors exactly how Gen Z already experiences the real world, where everything can be filmed, shared, and spread before you've had time to process what just happened. The in-game social media system doesn't feel alien to a 20-year-old in 2026. It feels like Tuesday. Now here's the connection that goes deeper than social media. Gen Z is the first generation statistically likely to be worse off financially than their parents. Housing costs have outpaced wage growth by decades. Student debt is at historic levels. The wealth gap between the top and bottom of the economy is the widest it has been in modern history. And Gen Z is entering adulthood at the bottom of it, with a perfect view of the top. Research shows 64% of Gen Z say they care more about mental well-being than financial growth, and 58% would take lower pay for better work-life balance. They've watched millennials hustle themselves into burnout without the promised outcomes and decided not to repeat the pattern. Now look at what Rockstar confirmed for GTA 6. Lucia starts the game coming out of prison. Jason is doing favors for his landlord's drug operation in exchange for free rent paid in home-cooked cocktails and a place to sleep. Both protagonists are structurally locked out of legitimate success in a world that displays wealth constantly and delivers it to almost nobody. Rockstar didn't accidentally set GTA 6 the most wealth-polarized state in America, with the most economically squeezed protagonists in franchise history, during the precise cultural moment when Gen Z is living that exact experience in real life. The emotional logic of Lucia and Jason's starting position is legible to this generation in a way Michael, Trevor, and Franklin's weren't, because in 2013, the wealth gap was an observation. In 2026, for Gen Z, it's a lived reality. Now the deepest connection, and this is the one that explains why GTA 6 is going to resonate with this generation on a level previous GTA simply couldn't reach. The single most documented value in Gen Z research across marketing studies, sociological research, platform behavior analysis is authenticity. Not just preferring authentic content, actively rejecting what they perceive as performative or manufactured. Research shows Gen Z can identify inauthenticity in media, advertising, and culture faster than any previous generation, and their response is immediate disengagement. Over half of Gen Z say social content feels more relevant when it's authentic. They feel closer to creators than to actors. User-generated content outperforms polished brand content by significant margins with this audience specifically because it feels real rather than constructed. Now look at what Rockstar confirmed for GTA 6. The in-game social media system runs on user-generated content, NPC-created recordings of real events happening in real time. It isn't a broadcast system. It's a participatory one, where the content comes from what's actually happening in the world. The protagonists are not aspirational power fantasies. Jason is working for free rent. Lucia is on an ankle monitor. They are not invincible. They are not wealthy. They are two people navigating a system that wasn't designed for them, which is the emotional starting position of most Gen Z players before they've even touched the controller. Previous GTAs asked you to inhabit a power fantasy. GTA 6 asks you to inhabit a relatable reality and then gives you the tools to fight back against it. That's a fundamentally different emotional proposition. And it maps precisely onto what research shows Gen Z actually wants from their media. Not aspiration, but recognition. One thing worth addressing directly. Because the lazy take on Gen Z and gaming is that everything needs to be shorter, faster, simpler, built around an 8-second attention span that can't hold focus. That 8-second figure is widely cited, but widely misunderstood. The research, it comes from measures initial engagement filtering how quickly Gen Z decides whether something is worth their time. It does not mean they can't sustain attention. It means they are ruthlessly efficient at deciding what deserves it. Gen Z watches long-form content, plays complex games, and builds deep platform engagement when the content earns it. The issue isn't capacity, it's threshold. The hook has to be immediate, the value has to be clear, the authenticity has to be present from the first moment. GTA 6 opens with Lucia in prison. No tutorial, no lengthy introduction. Straight into a character with a specific emotional reality in a world with visible stakes. That's not a coincidence. That's Rockstar understanding that their audience in 2026 filters faster than any previous GTA player and opening accordingly. So here's what GTA 6 is actually doing for Gen Z, and why no previous game has done all three of these things simultaneously. First, it built its world around the infrastructure. Gen Z already lives inside. The social media system isn't a feature added to a traditional GTA world. It is the world's nervous system, the mechanism through which events spread, reputations form, and consequences propagate. That's exactly how Gen Z already experiences reality. Not as a series of events, but as a series of events that immediately become content, which then shapes how those events are understood and responded to. GTA 6 is the first game where the world processes information the way Gen Z does. Second, it gave this generation protagonists who start where they actually are, not where they're promised to end up. Michael had a mansion, Franklin had ambition, but at least had a functioning social world. Trevor had complete freedom of action. Lucia has an ankle monitor. Jason has free rent in exchange for drug favors. These are not power fantasies. They are starting positions that Gen Z recognizes people at the bottom of a system, looking up at the top. And the game's moral question is what you do from there. Research shows Gen Z rejects hustle culture, specifically because they've watched the promised outcomes fail to materialize. GTA 6's protagonists embody exactly that disillusionment, and then give the player agency to respond to it in a world with no legitimate rules. And third, the world is reactive in a way that mirrors how Gen Z experiences consequence. Nothing stays local. Nothing stays quiet. Crimes get filmed. Evidence persists. Your choices build a history that the world responds to. Gen Z grew up understanding that digital actions have permanent consequences, that something you did online at 16 can surface at 26. GTA 6's world is built on exactly that principle. The city has memory, your reputation compounds, and the social media system makes sure nothing happens in private. None of this means Rockstar sat down with a Gen Z psychology report and reverse engineered a game from it. Rockstar makes games by studying the world around them, always has. The original Vice City studied 1980s Miami. San Andreas studied 1990s LA gang culture. GTA 5 studied post-financial crisis American excess. GTA 6 studied 2020s America. And 2020s America is inescapably the world Gen Z inherited and is trying to navigate. The alignment between GTA 6's confirmed design choices and Gen Z's documented psychology isn't a marketing decision. It's what happens when you study the world closely enough, and the world you're studying belongs to a specific generation. Whether Rockstar intended it or not, they built a world that reflects this generation back at itself, and that's a more powerful thing than any deliberate Gen Z marketing strategy could produce. GTA 5 was built for a world where social media was rising. GTA 6 was built for a world where social media is infrastructure, where the wealth gap isn't an observation but a lived daily reality, where authenticity isn't a preference but a filter filter through which everything gets assessed in seconds. That's not a game feature, that's a generational condition. And Rockstar, whether deliberately or through the process of studying the world carefully enough, built a game that reflects that condition with more precision than most platforms, brands, or institutions that are explicitly trying to reach Gen Z. November 19th isn't just a new GTA launching. It's the first major cultural product built around how an entire generation actually thinks released into a world that generation is about to spend the next decade shaping. Which confirmed GTA 6 feature hits closest to something you actually experience in your real life right now? The social media system, the wealth gap, the protagonists starting from nothing, the world that never forgets what you did. Pick one, because I think for most people watching this, the answer is more specific than they expected.